I'm here with Rob Steiner, media analyst at Luminate Intelligence. Now that we've talked about catalog valuation, I thought it would be interesting to find out about what Luminate does and how it fits into this whole picture, because there's a lot of people in the industry that I've talked to who use Luminate to get the data they need for this. So, Rob, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Glad you could be here. Now tell us, what is Luminate and how does it fit in with valuing catalogs?
Yeah, so Luminate is a data company that focuses specifically on the entertainment industry. We are probably best known for looking at music consumption data. For one thing, our data powers the Billboard charts. We also work with pretty much every music company you can imagine to offer them insights on everything from streaming data to consumer surveys. But we also work well within the film and TV industries as well, doing pretty much the same thing, basically just offering a more specific look at consumer habits through data.
Gotcha. And how does that relate to valuing catalogs?
Yeah, it ends up playing a pretty big role. In short, I want to disclose that, this is a very complex process. Valuating catalogs. Luminate is just one part of a very large village of people who make these calls. Granted, it is a pretty major part of that process. Basically, our data gives the people who value these catalogs, the people buying and selling these catalogs, it gives them a really clear view of what is going on with the music, pretty much. It's twofold. On one hand, it's through the consumption data that we provide, obviously just seeing stream counts and the split between premium streams versus ad-supported streams, seeing the share of each individual songs within an artist's catalog. All of that plays into it. It's a pretty huge part of deciding what an artist or a large publishing catalog is worth. The other component too is that our fan surveys or consumer surveys also offer another more qualitative view of what the average consumer might enjoy, or how do rock fans differ in their consumption or buying habits than pop fans or hip hop fans. We are able to look at that. We can even look at individual artist level for a good number of artists as well. So in a nutshell, that is what we bring to the table.
Got it. Now, you did a recent report on music rights and catalog acquisitions. What did you find out about the state of catalog value and the acquisition market?
Yeah, so I ended up doing that report basically because the market has been really blowing up in the last several years. I would say around 2021 onward, probably even earlier than that, we've just seen a huge number of massive catalog deals, a lot of new players, especially in private equity, coming into the fold. It's been big business for a number of reasons. For one, with the growth of streaming, not only just in big markets like the US, but now we're also seeing streaming grow in other global markets. That's basically created it's made music into a pretty secure asset or a pretty reliable asset. Because now, when you stream, it creates smaller but constant royalties, constantly generating royalties versus when you buy an album, it's purchased, it's done. Now it's more of a steady stream that bigger companies can afford to, buy into and wait as they trickle in. So that's kind of what's caused a lot of interest in it. Also, just in general, the music market has proven pretty resistant to larger macroeconomic trends, which I think ends up being pretty appealing to investors looking for a safe and reliable asset. And basically another aspect of this too is artists, iconic, legendary artists who are aging and want to retire and maybe, pass off their brand, their legacy to somebody who can carry it on. It would interest them to maybe, sell their catalog for 7, 8, 9 figures, So I think all of those factors have resulted in a pretty booming market right now. And currently, since I've written the report, we've also started to see this year kind of a shift from the big, buy phase to more of a consolidation phase now, where we're seeing, with examples being Primary Wave buying Cobalt or BMG merging with Concord. as well as we have players from like more of the private equity and non-music space basically now cashing out and selling the catalogs they acquired in the last several years, just because it seems like now is the best time to strike and buy out. So we're starting to see that happen. But granted, it's still big business at the end of the day. We're still probably going to continue to see massive deals, maybe just not at the same clip as several years ago.
Well, let's say that we have a listener who has a catalog that they've not really done any valuation work around. What data are they going to look at in Luminate, and how are they going to get what they need from Luminate for their own specific catalog?
Yeah, so basically like what our data provides, like I said before, is a real like zoomed in lens of what is going on with an artist catalog. You can look down to the individual song, and all of these factors end up playing a hand in like what catalog valuators would end up analyzing on their end and determining like the price of a given artist catalog. Some of the things we look at obviously is like just raw streams, like how many streams are they getting, and with that too, like you're able to see sort of long-term trends. Like every song album that's released kind of has a natural decay curve where upon like initial release there's a huge spike, maybe that sustains for the first week or two, and then that'll generally flatten out. But sometimes, a song might go viral on TikTok, so then it gets a second life and gets another spike. All of that plays into, what is kind of seen as the long-term value of a song. Because again, if it goes, if it keeps spiking, that might be more appealing to one that like just kind of has been flat for the last several years. So that's one aspect. Another one is paid versus ad-supported streams, and this is talking about subscriptions basically, like streams from like freemium accounts on like Spotify, free with ads versus like a paid, specifically paid subscription. Those offer different payouts. So that ends up being important too, where if an artist has like, millions and millions of streams, but like the 80% of them are ad supported, that might end up being less appealing to, someone in with more premium than ad supported streams. And another big one is also like the individual share of songs within a catalog. By that, I mean basically like, if you have an artist who might be a household name, has good branding, has a reliable listenership, but like if they're known for more like one or two big hits, and like we can actually see with our data where like one song might just be bringing in like 50% of their total streams for the past year. Um, that's not to say that like they should be counted out, but like at the end of the day, an artist who maybe has like more of a evenly split streams across their whole catalog, that ends up being more appealing. I think a great example is Slipknot, who recently sold their catalog, I believe, last year for, I forget the exact number, but 100 million plus, I believe. We looked at the numbers after that deal was announced, and yes, they're like metal legends, but obviously they're not like a household name like Queen or something. But at the same time, we looked at their share, and sure enough, their top 5 songs only brought in about 30% of their total streams for 2025, which means like their whole back catalog is also very well listened to by their fans. That ends up being, a huge plus for buyers or investors, because that means basically there are more songs they can utilize that bring in more value. So that's just literally the tip of the iceberg, but like that is some of like the biggest things I would say you get from looking at our data.
Awesome. This has been really valuable, I think, for us to just kind of listen through what role the data that Luminate tracks can play in valuing catalogs, because there's a lot of data out there, and you guys are kind of one of the main go-to sources for the master record of what's happening with songs out there. What else should our listeners know about Luminate before we wrap up?
I would say that if you basically want like as probably a comprehensive of a lens into an artist's performance from the data perspective, like we're your guys. It's and the team I'm on, the intelligence team, we release monthly reports that kind of do deeper dives that get a little more niche and granular than the larger like mid-year near-end reports that Luminate also publishes. So if that's of any interest, I'm actually going to be doing a follow-up report on music rights pretty soon. I would say follow Luminate Insights and everything else that we do.
Amazing. Rob, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.